That's incorrectamundo, though, buddy. Wrong board. Now you're showing all your business. What are you doing? Doing? Boomer GM at the board here. Give me a break. Let's start here. Oh man, it's always so hard. It's always so hard. Okay. And I go this one, preview. I'm working on it. It's all wrong. Okay. Why is it doing this to me? Why you doing this to me? There we go, number one. Very simple chess. Very simple. I probably exposed myself in a variety of ways that I wasn't supposed to do. Very good. And then almost there. Pop. I think that's going to work out. Dojo Graduates. All right, everybody, thank you for being here. Boomer GM, man, he has some hard times. Things got reset, but you know what? My OBS rating now is about 1100, okay? It's not a master rating, but I'm getting there, man. I'm getting there. So today we got 5 graduates. This show was originally going to be this past Monday, but the database wasn't updated, and there were a couple games I really wanted to get to that people had submitted. And then I thought, well, let's just do it on the weekend with our big show. So I'll do this show today, and then tomorrow I will do the graduates for the next week. Normally I do that show on Monday. So that will be DM Hokie will send me those names later today or early tomorrow morning, and so we'll do that then. Yeah. Dojo's working hard behind the scenes. I just want to say this scoreboard, for example, is, like, let me just say we had, the site was it was beautiful but clunky. So this is its own separate thing on a Google Sheet. People tell us once we grow a little bit more, the Google Sheet will explode or it'll move too slow. So we are going to get our own separate site. And part of the problem too was the boomers were like, boss, I don't want to learn Discord. It's too hard. And my Discord rating is probably like 1,000. I think it's just so hard to learn to do Discord properly. So I understand it when the boomers are just like, boss, I can't get on your website. I want to do it, but I want to learn chess. I don't want to learn Discord. So we're going to have like a site that will still have Discord for people to talk to each other. But if you just want to do the program, just want to like organize some sparring, boom, you don't need to go to Discord. That's the dream anyway. May 1st, and you know what? It's April 1st. I should have had a better April 1st joke planned, but maybe that'll still come. Something I want to say is, Dora is here. I haven't seen Dora in a long time. Something I want to say is a lot of times when I get into these game analyses that we're going to do, I oftentimes don't look at the chat. And so I'm going to try, but I got a couple windows open. And so the chat won't always be set. Oh, I probably really blew it there, huh? I probably showed all kinds of things, and it was an easy fix what I needed to do too. In any case, Boomer GM had some OBS drama at the very beginning. I thought I wasn't going to be able to solve it too, man. I thought I was going to need Braden. Braden, in fact, stepped away. So I had to solve it by myself. All right, this is what we're going to do. First, we have Caps Chess. Kind of a cool story. Why don't we start, since we're on this scoreboard, we could start with either the scoreboard or the game. It could go either way. Kind of both tell a story, right? And something with Caps that I noticed is Caps has started very recently and then had big progress. Right? Whether that's due to us or, just the fact that Caps is ready to move up, maybe a pandemic player, i.e. somebody who is just starting, finding their way. So Caps Chess has gone up to 800, 900, but what we're looking at here is their progress in the 700 to 800 band. Okay, so start rating 974 ChessCom, 1043, 100-point game, 11 points per box. Anytime you see a high 4 point something is our average per box. And so anytime you see something like that, it's showing that they're not close to their plateau yet. That it's one or two more jumps before they hit a situation where they really have to grind it out. Again, the whole program is built around the idea that if you're flying like Caps Chess is doing now, you're not going to finish all the requirements before you graduate. It's built so like when you hit the plateau, you're going to like do all the requirements and then maybe, hopefully, we're going to say high 90% chance that you then graduate to the next range, right? And so, like Caps Chess, I'm assuming it goes up to 800, 900. We'll probably maybe do something like maybe half the program, a quarter of the program, and then move on. And the main thing we say is like concentrate on analyzing your games. Let's look at what Caps Chess did. So we got some annotated games. By the way, this was an interesting thing. We did a statistical analysis. We're going to do this often, hopefully, to find out which box gives you the most ELO return. And pedagogically, my box would have been this one here, the number of games you've analyzed. Or it could have been something like the Polgar Mates, or maybe the classic book down here. You know, there's all kinds of things. The endgame algorithm. These are the things that pedagogically I would have liked to have been true, just to confirm my biases. But that's the cool thing about statistics. They show you things, and in fact, it's this one, classical games. Classical games played is actually the metric. And then somebody on Twitter, it was Strong Chess on Twitter, was like, boss, you know, if you want to get good at playing the violin, you play the violin. You know, like that. So I do want to say, though, that playing games alone is a recipe for disaster. You have to look at your mistakes. So there it is. And let's move. Let's just look what Caps Chess has done. Some of this, you know, he's done the standard stuff. He's done some game analysis, some puzzle rush. The puzzle rush we're finding is arguably too easy. He's done the puzzle storm. I have to still do the puzzle storm myself, not only for my own benefit, but just to see what it's like. I know it's going to be different. One of the classic games. Okay. And that's in a review model annotated game. One cool thing actually about the program 2.0 is that we're going to have, one of the requirements is going to be looking at 5 games from your cohort, right? Just looking at them, see how they did, and then at the moment I'm designating which games, or Kostya and I and David as well, designating which games we think are like good games for the cohort. Eventually, I want it to be something crowdsourced, kind of like a Reddit thing where you can vote it up or down so that the cohort could decide what they felt were the best annotated games. Okay, Kraai, you talking too much, buddy. Let's go. Dojo game review. Oh, why does this look awful? Wait a second. That's good. Pop. Pop. Oh, criminy. Oh, boss. Ah, you really blew it this time. You really blew it this time, boss. I don't even have any words for you, buddy. Look at that. Look at this. Can we bump up the mic? Yeah, where's my mic, boss? Can we bump it up? Can we bump it up, boss? Okay, what I need to do is bump up this thing. Why is my board all funkagelic here, man? No one knows. See, but that's OBS skills right there. You don't get that. You don't get that just being a chump, man. You got to know the business here. And this is all wrong. This is all wrong. I can't see nothing. Pop. That's got to be a pause. Okay. Pop. Here we go. They call me a genius for a reason. So while I'm setting up, let me just blah blah for a second. The this kind of game review started even before we had the before we even had Chess Dojo. I was doing a show on chess.com, and the basic intention was to encourage people at that point to go over their own games. And look at that! I got my little head. I got a little head in the clouds here. And this is all wrong, boss. What is going on here? Oh, you're killing me. You're just destroying me. You're just killing me. Cancel. It's just, you're killing me. Ow, cancel. What is this? All right, we're going to have to do another one. And then that has evolved in some ways to this program. God, it's being a real jerk face here. It's being a real jerk. There we go. Here's a simple thing I need you to do, boss. And we need you to go over here. Foop. It got all messed up. Why did everything get a little mixed up? I will tell you. Because this is kind of good news. I am finally done with the evil chessable course, Aggressive Repertoire for White. It took me forever. We're talking half a year. I thought it was going to take me a month. But I'm finally done with that thing. I have achieved a certain degree of freedom. And my settings are all messed up because of Chessable. It's their fault. They had me do so many fancy things. But I got a green screen, so now I can do this thing where I'm kind of inside of the business here. I'm inside of Caps Chess's annotations. Okay, let's take a look. S. Soroka is here. Nice. We're going to do one of S. Soroka's games, Steven Soroka's games, in a second. Now, this is a terrible move. But I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because in my bishop's opening, we often play f4. Now, why is it a terrible move? Because black can do so many things to get a good game. It's unprincipled. f4 does not help you develop your pieces. And furthermore, Caps Chess, I don't know if he's in the chat yet, but I talked to him briefly, and he'll certainly watch the show later. Here, d5 is a great move, basically instant equality for black, and they can do all kinds of other things. g5 it's obviously provocative, but I'm sure that's good too. But the main thing is, from where Caps Chess is right now, Caps Chess should not be studying openings, right? And in order to play this funky thing even halfway right, you're going to have to study a lot of weird moves. Okay, h6. Obviously a little strange. Obviously the guy wants to play g5. Okay. Obviously funkadelic, right? What's the right move? It's going to be d4 or knight c3. Let's read what you write. If you could get this position, you're obviously doing great. And the reason I'd want to play d4 now is we instantly tell the dude, yeah, you got to move the pawn to g5 if you don't want me to play bishop f4, which is clearly your idea. Now, how would it go? I don't know. Maybe something like this. And then maybe here. That could be black's way of playing this position. It would obviously get hot. Back in the 1800s, I guarantee they analyzed this position. They really thought this was the only way to play. Sensei, the board is not in sync. Thank you very much. Darn it. Darn it. And I know exactly what's happening. The boomer, the Chessable, they got me all wrong, dude. They got me all wrong. All right, which board is that? It's, I see. I'm a real boomer GM. And I know why it didn't look right at the beginning, boss. Oh, man, it's an early days. It's an early days thing for me. Sorry, my friends. That was like my rate. I might have lost some OBS rating points on that one. I probably, I feel like I was around 1100. I definitely dipped some there. Okay. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for telling me, Bows. Let me show you again. So I was yelling at Caps Chess for playing this F4 move, playing two witty openings. And one of the funny things about playing an opening like this is then you get confused about what good moves are, right? Because now you're going to play a weird move like H4, breaking the principles. Why does F4 break the principles? Because it's not a developing move. It doesn't help your pieces develop. You just need 2 pawn moves to get your dudes out. That's it. You don't need any other fancy moves to get your guys out. So F4 doesn't help get your guys out. H4 definitely doesn't help to get your guys out. Now, one challenge that H4 does put to black is to say, Bows, how are you going to defend the F4 pawn, right? So the correct move is by all means D5. And now black is going to hurt you bad because it's clear that when we compare, let's say, this position, which is good for black, to the position with here, this is clearly a huge advantage for black, with the G3 square being nasty, with H6 actually being nice to just cover the square. H4, just black's kingside is a mess. So what they say is attacks on the wing are met by attacks in the center. Now, Caps Chess, let me yell at you a little bit. I'm the one who has D5 in here. You should, when you say D6 is funky, you should say why it's funky, i.e. show me a different move that you think black should have done. And I definitely think you're right that D6 is funky, but we should try to identify what black should have done. Okay, so D4, and now you're doing great. Bishop G4, and now let's read here. I freaked out here and wanted to protect the knight on F4 with another layer of safety, completely forgetting about the bishop. So yeah, you gotta take your pawn, Bows. It's not just a pawn, it's the development of your bishop. Oh no. So here, so let me just say, Caps, here's a couple things that are great about you being on this graduation show today. You're obviously doing great. You're gonna go up some in the next couple months. But here we want to learn how to annotate. And so with knight BD2, you're criticizing yourself. Just put a question mark. Just go right click, question mark, right? And then yes, bishop F4, and then give me an evaluation of the position. Now, they don't have to play bishop F3, but for example, in this position after bishop F4, I'd say you're doing great. You're doing great. Some people might even say you got a clear advantage, right? And this will help you practice the art of thinking, what is the evaluation of the position? It's an art form. Okay. So, again, if you think bishop C4 is weird, tell us what you think you should have done instead. At this point, now that you've committed the knight to D2, the pieces are a little funky. So I understand bishop C4. You need to try to castle, right? All right, queen E7, weird. Knight F6, rook E1. Let's read what you write here. Here I was already making plans to break through with E5, but I wanted to be completely sure that I would have enough defense to do so. Okay. Let's say that this position is a little bit hard to play now because your pieces are tangled. So part of the issue is we really need to take the pawn on F4. I was going to say to make our pieces whole. You know, like the way the gangsters talk about getting made whole. You need to be made whole by getting the pawn back. Okay? And it's not just the pawn. It's the fact that the pawn is like messing with your bishop on c1, your knight on d2 is in the way of everybody. And so we need to figure our stuff out. And what rook e1 does that I don't like is the rook had a purpose on f1. Now, that said, it's not an easy position to know how to get out of your bind. But my gut is that you should play queen e1. Also not the most inspiring move, I got to admit. But there we can at least move the knight on f3. And then we can think about playing e5. I want to stress, the rook is developed on f1. Oh, these colors are really amazing, man. This is new. That's like a Manchester City blue, you know. All right, here we go. Rook e1, queen d8. Totally weird. Totally weird. Should they have castled? Yes. So one of the things we're seeing in this game so far, we could say a tactical mistake by not taking on f4, but also just complete loss of time from both sides. And now I have an interesting question. Could you have played knight takes e5? It would be, no, well, could dude have played knight takes e5? Let's just take a walk on the wild side. The point of this is I really want to bring, if I find a way not to lose the queen, I really want to play this move. So I want to stress with this weird idea with knight e5, the main point is not some tactical madness, but rather to try to develop my guys right. Now, I'm not even sure this is going to work. Let's take a look. Pop. It might not work. Well, I mean, we are going to get the queen. And then, I guess, something like this. We go pop, 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 and we'll play knight f3 next. But black is fine. Black is fine. Okay. The problem with this, of course, pop, check to the miserable king. Now your king is funkadelic, and black blunders immediately bishop f2. Okay. So the natural move for black would be knight h5, after which I think we have to say black is clearly winning, right? Dude is clearly winning. The knight is just amazing. The bishop on g4 can't get moved. The pawn on h4 is going to get popped. Another, we don't even talk about it, Kraai. Don't even bring it up. Okay, bishop f2. Check to the miserable king. Check, check. King f8. Now we're doing great. And now you play fg, which certainly makes sense. Question. Do you think reading out of the book How to Reassess Your Chess could be good chess content as a streamer? Just asking, since you're the best coaching channel I know. Well, first of all, thank you very much. It wouldn't be bad content. I don't know if we're allowed to do that one. I know Silman is kind of clever in that he does his own publishing company, and I think he has his own ideas about what is fair use, which is fine with me. But yeah, there's all kinds of books we can read online. Now, I just want to say, Caps Chess, I'm very happy with this move b3 because you had created a problem with for yourself by putting the knight on d2, killing your bishop, and because the bishop was killed, your rook was killed. This, though, b3, going to solve all your problems. Yep. Now, if it's a bad move, you should say why with bishop f3 is a bad move. Check. Oh. Now, you say that that's funky, but you should say why. Now, again, the grief I have with your notes is there's a lot of things that you're not explaining. And I want to stress, it's not just for me, but you will learn more yourself by explaining what's going on. Right? Why is queen c3 potentially controversial? Because you put b3 to play bishop b2. Now, are you winning in either case? I think so. So you do some trades, you take the pawn. It's fine. Thank you very much. Okay, now that's a mistake. This is a little bit highfalutin, but the reason rook e1 is a mistake is because his rooks are doing double duty in terms of things they are controlling, and your rook has amazing diversity, help with the rest of your pieces, right? So imagine you have this very diverse force. Black's force is undiverse. The liberals like to talk about diversity as a virtue in itself. This is an example where it's definitely a good thing, because by doing different things, the pieces can truly make different contributions and work together. A metaphor that flashed in my mind, and I've had so many metaphors for this precise dynamic, is in Ukraine, they're talking about the spring offensive and what combined force military action would be. Right? So, for example, the Russians have not been able to do a combined force. They haven't been able to involve their air force, for example. Right? So, if you get a combined force working at the same time, oh, buddy, and they're doing different things, right? We could think about the bishops as your air force. Black doesn't have an air force, Baus. He has no air force, and you can start ripping him up. So if anything, your rook, if it has a dream, could be to play to f1. Stealing the pawn on c7 also isn't dumb. It's not just the pawn, but it is opening more lines for the bishop. Okay, so here we go. Pop, pop, pop. This could get potentially complicated now. Okay. Bad move. I think it's a bad move because I'm like, Baus. Well, first of all, there's a couple things here. Dude could have gotten counterplay with rook e2. So knight d3 was a mistake. Okay? So I don't understand this. I don't understand why no one's protecting their pawn on c7. You now make this trade because you find the knight annoying. Still no one's protecting the pawn on c7. This endgame, by the way, not super simple to win. It's a good thing that you have the bishops instead of a bishop and knight, but we have to say, I mean, the dude's got a pawn. So we're now in the area of not so simple, but after you win the pawn, it's honestly pretty simple. I would have preferred g3 just to hold everything down. Okay, we're doing great. g4! And now he blew it. Yeah, the move that black should play is, of course, something like rook c1. Rook c1 looks like a good move, after which it's going to be very difficult to win this game. Yeah, it's going to be difficult. Because you can't, yeah, actually, you're just not winning this game anymore. Okay, Caps Chess. So, great start. I'm looking forward to your progress, dude. You're doing great. And so here he is. He's counting up 800 to 900. I call the 1,000 barrier Plato's cave. That's when you're stopping, you're not dropping stuff as much. And let's just say that I said all kinds of highfalutin stuff, but the main thing at the moment for you, and you see it with your opponents too at this level, is people are dropping stuff, right? Okay, great. So let's go to number 2, and this is going to be Dakota. I only found one game of Dakota's in here, and this was from the end of last year. Now, why don't we first look at the scoreboard here? See what's going on with Dakota. I'm going to look at the scoreboard first, just because I'm interested to ask the question: is Dakota submitting games that I don't see, or what is Dakota doing other things? What's going on? So there's Dakota. And Dakota's now in 1,000, 1,100, but I want to find where Dakota was before. 1,000, 1,100, right? Oh, I see. No. Dakota's in 1,100 too. I blew it here. So hold on. Let me go back. And I got to make some jadoobs. 1,000, 1,100. Okay. So first of all, Kraai, you need to make a jadoo, buddy. Dakota is in the 1,100 to 1,200 cohort. And let's take a look. So Dakota, oh, I also like this. Started at towards the end of last year, 1333 ChessCom, gained 22 points, but check it out, went above. Now, here's an interesting thing about rating progress. You can see dude is working hard, 2 points per box, very hard. And let's take a look. Not that many games analyzed or played. Now, with played, that might mean that Dakota is not playing classical games and that he is being honest, or she is being honest, about the number of games that they're actually playing that are classical. Very important to stress. The reason why we're saying this is you must do System 2 thinking to advance, especially once you get beyond 1,000. What we're going to do is for the 2.0 is we're saying for under 1,000, we're allowing you to play what's called the blunder games. Just quicker games, let's say 15 minutes, where you're just focused on not hanging your pieces, because that is what's killing people in the under 1,000 ranks. All right, let's take a look at what Dakota's done. Look at the maiden twos, bows. That's what I like to see. All right. All right. This is work, dude. Now, this is what I'm saying. Like, Dakota's really pushing it. So, the book, How to Beat Your Dad at Chess, Puzzle Rush, done. Silman Part 1, done. Classic Games, done. Memorized Game, done. Yeah, dude. This is what I want to see, man. Okay. So what you can see, what you're seeing here is like Dakota is kind of at a plateau here, has gone up 22 points, and is now in the 1,100 band. And we're going to try to look at Dakota's game and see if we can make some suggestions. The first thing I want to say, Dakota, is what I said at the beginning. We did the statistical analysis. What is the best way to improve? Longer games. Boom. System 2 thinking, drill it down. Even if you end up playing quick games on chess.com, those games you play at a longer time control where you're really sweating, that's where you're going to improve. All right, let's go look at the game review. And now usually what I do here is I forget to switch scenes. However, now I did not forget. Let me go look at the chat. Someone's probably yelling at me if something dumb I did. McManus says, should we avoid King's Gambit at all levels or just for beginners? I think it's terrible. The King's Gambit, I really do. I think it's really terrible. But we got to say, Pruess has lost a lot of games in the King's Gambit, so he's a fan of that thing. That guy, Pruess, losing to all kinds of chumps with the King's Gambit. You open your kimono like that with the King's Gambit, you're going to lose some games. You're going to make an announcement in terms of openings. First of all, one of the coolest things that Chess Dojo did is to say, Baus, you're not allowed to study openings until you hit the 1,200 cohort. I know no one listens to me in that, and we're going to see, every time I go over these annotations from 1,200 and under, or not every time, but often, you'll see people talking about deep theory. So that said, April 10th is when the Chess Dojo Aggressive Opening Repertoire for White is coming out on Chessable. Thank you very much. That was a hard project, my friends. I've been working hard. Why haven't I been streaming much recently? That's why I haven't been streaming that much recently. All right, here we go. Let's flip it to see it from Dakota's point of view. I think I am still in book. Oh, yes, you are, my friend. Okay, so this is actually fun. I did this for white as part of the Chess Dojo Aggressive Repertoire for white. And there I covered this move, h4. Knight c3 is not dumb. And the issue that black has is if white just develops, black will eventually need to play c5. When black plays c5, they lose a tempo and they open the position. right? So even though they got their bishop out and it seems like they're going to have a good French, it can still get very hot. So e6, h3, poor move. Dakota, I need to see a question mark on h3, all right? Let me just stress, I've said this so many times, it's difficult to learn not to hang your pieces. It is. It just takes some practice. But not making moves like h3, that's not that hard. You just need to have my voice in your head being no bows. No. Now we do not do that. We develop our stuff. So any move would have been better. Let's just talk about what any move might look like. Knight f3, bishop e2, bishop b3, bishop e3. I don't care. Even knight e2 I like better. That's a weird move. But I like that move better. And you could still play the wild h4 because h4 has a threat. Okay, h4 has a threat to trap the bishop. h4 is not losing a tempo because black must respond. Okay? I am concerned that I might be wrecking the dojo statistical analysis on rating changes. Last night I had a couple of beers and lost like 80 points. Ah, buddy, what are you doing to the dojo? What are you doing to the dojo? Now, the good news is we have so many people that one dude drinking a couple beers isn't going to affect it too much. There was more like the people in dojo probably are going to be, on average, less likely to drink some beers as contrasted to their opponents. Okay. So c5, absolutely correct. And the reason is c5 is always a tricky moment to decide when you do it. But if white gives you a tempo, that's for sure your sign. That's like a bing, bing, bing. Now we're getting a French where we truly are caught up in time. Yeah, we're doing great. Our knight's coming to c6. Snip, okay. Wait. 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 Wait, this can't be true. Now, what's weird about this is it's saying that the bishop got traded on d3, but this PGN is like bows. That can't be right. Something happened here, Dakota, because I think you probably did like maybe take on c5. Like what actually happened was you took on c5, and then he played bishop d3. Huh. So I don't know, man. I'm confused. So I'm a little confused on this one. Let's roll through it and just see if it makes sense otherwise. There are things about this. No, there's things I don't understand about. No, I'm going to go ahead and say this is a corrupted PGN. Yeah, so Dakota, I'm gonna leave this one, and I'm just gonna say something weird happened with your PGN. I don't know how it happened. Back in the day, I taught a lot of students, kids, where I had to decipher their score sheets, and that was an art form. I'm good at it. I'm very good at deciphering score sheets, but this one's weird because you played it, and then I don't know. I can't decipher it. I was thinking bishop c5 is missing too, but then later dude plays bishop takes c5 here in this position. So how could we have missed bishop takes c5 earlier if, I don't know. That's beyond me. Now I will do some game review shows coming up. So Dakota, if you have another game to send me, I'm happy to look at it. All right, let's do the next one. This is going to be CB, GGH. 90-30 classical game. Beautiful. Now, I just want you to look at this. Look at the words. Beautiful, man. Beautiful. Perhaps we'll end up criticizing, saying that there should be more variations, but that looks good. That's just what it should look like. All right, so we'll go and look at the scoreboard after this for CB, GGH. There might be some confusion if you're just watching this, haven't seen this show before. The reason this says 1568 and then below saying that CBGGH is graduated to 1500. The point is that we had to devise a universal training system that had, you know, the FIDE, USCF, the German one, the English one, Lichess, all this stuff. And of course, ChessCom and Lichess are inflated. Okay, Animzo. I have played this opponent before as white in the same opening. Previously, we went into a Leningrad. I decided to go for the more classical approach with E3 this time. Okay. Now, CBGGH is allowed to study openings at this point. Okay, so I'm not allowed to say anything bad. Already a bit questionable. While black is by no means lost, opening principles have been broken. Yes, sir. The knight moves twice and for dubious reasons. Okay. Queen C2, good move. And now the only thing, I don't know how it would work actually, but if there are some variations where you play knight E4 and then F5. That's not going to work here. So one thing that could be done, kind of a classical line, is B6, knight F3, knight E4, and then like queen C2, F5, bishop D3, bishop B7. This has been played a bunch. But okay, yes, this is incorrect. Good move. And yeah, so this is an interesting position. We own the center. Oftentimes, you get this pawn structure with the black bishop having taken on C3. And the difference now is that, of course, we have won some time. Now, this is an interesting move. I'm going to call it a mistake because the bishop will want to be back on E7. Let's read what CB writes. After the trade, white is better due to the extra tempi and the superior center and space advantage, along with the half-open B file. Now that spelling of superior, that's like an English spelling or something. Maybe he's Canadian. I'll have to talk about it. And now we have some interesting questions about how to play the position. Now, for my own, just 2 cents, I would like to play knight F3 and bishop D3. Let's look at this bishop A3. I see that my dark square bishop can temporarily prevent castling for black if I play bishop A3. I would normally have played knight F3, bishop D3 here, but I thought bishop A3 was interesting. It also gives me the option to play bishop B4 later on if I want, and either trade off black's bishop and further open the B file or fix my double pawns. Okay. I'm absolutely with you that I think bishop D3 and knight F3 are better. And if this pawn were on D5, then for sure we should play bishop A3. So for example, let's say knight F3. This, in my mind, is close to a blunder, and it's hard to imagine black ever surviving. The issue with bishop A3, though, is that after D6, let's see if you mentioned that, D6, good move. So, I mean, good annotation. That's right. And this is a common thing, actually, where D6 is something they want to play anyway, and it cuts the bishop. So, this position, by the way, is, I mean, you could say strategically winning for you because you own the center. You are up in time. By the way, black owes you another pawn move to get the bishop on C8 out. The knight on B8 is very hard to do anything with. And not only is the bishop not going to be able to help the black king defend, but a lot of times in these positions, black achieves counterplay by putting the knight here. It's, in general, going to be a hard thing to figure out where the knight's supposed to go. Okay, let's see what you do. Pop. Good. I knew B6 was wrong intuitively as soon as I played it, as black played, but I needed to articulate why in my mind and realize I should simply develop. I have a better position already and should focus on normal development that further improves my position. Good. Okay, now, here you play bishop E2. Can't be too wrong. but bishop d3 would be the gusto move. That's the move with gusto. So we're saying if you take on f3, you're done. Now I realize that's a gusto move because you have to have the confidence that black is in fact toast when they take on f3. And part of the reason for seeing that they're toast is that even if you castle and they get bishop f3 gf, bishop a5 is out of play, so it's really like they're down a piece over there. And your unopposed light square bishop is amazing. Okay, but this is the safe way. And now black plays knight c6. Curiously, like black is refusing. They're just refusing to play d6. The normal thing for them to do here would be like to play d6, bows, castle, at some point play knight d7, right? That's the way you play chess. That's just the way it's done. So knight c6. And you could have played d5. I get it. I like what you did. I like what you did. Now, notice something about your annotations here. You don't have too many variations, but here you give a long one on d5. And something I want you to see is that if you do d5, that the intention here should not be to play de, because that frees the bishop on b7. The intention has to be e4 to put him on lockdown. Right? Now, I don't like this position as much as just simply castling, because here d6 is going to shut you down a little bit. But you're massively better here because the bishop on b7 is poor. What I like about castles, especially from a practical point of view, is you're just like, boss, okay, show me what you got. Show me what you got. All right, castles, knight e7. Okay, so here dude is showing what he wants. And you play rook a b1. I guess I'm okay with that, rook a b1. e4 also looks very strong. I like e4 a lot. But okay, rook a b1. And you write c5 would have been better. Excuse me, castles, and then c5 would be a pop, pop, c4. Now, obviously, dude could do a variety of things after c5. One thing about this position that's tricky is that this c5 move in the Nimzo is problematic because when you take, you open the c file. So a more standard response for black could be d6. And we're just saying, I'll probably move my knight next if you do nothing. And whenever you take, my rook's going to land on c8, and I truly have a little bit of zhuzh. So that was my kind of wondering about rook a b1. Now, here's a fancy move that I kind of like. We could definitely consider rook b5 here at some point, right? So, for example, castles, rook b5. And the intention is obvious. I just want to increase the force count against the black king, right? It's a pretty intense move. You don't have to do it, but if I was going to put the rook on b1, that would have been my intuition, right? Okay. So c5 looks like a blunder. Pop. Let's read what you write. I am happy to take a free pawn and add more tactical possibilities on the queen side. I do temporarily have triple pawns, but with a much better position, a pawn up and black's unsafe king, I am better here. Okay, yeah. And for me, the big convincing factor for me is that now your bishop on a3 is not going to get shut down. So for example, after rook c8, if in a slightly different position, we can imagine that maybe black could have some counterplay here. But the fact is, now your bishop on a3, it went from a controversial placement to just an absolute winner here. You're going to be touching d6. You're going to be looking at e7, at f8, you know, the whole business. Fine. You could have taken on b6 too. f5. Okay. Again, black tries to create something with a pawn push, but it's a mistake. All right, let's look. I think, of course, the dude needs to castle. C takes. A takes is the only move. C5. C5 makes me a little nervous because I'm not sure we need it. Okay? And you're like the C4 pawn is killing the rook on C8 at the moment, right? So I'd rather not do it. I think this has got to be winning. Watch this. Pop! Pop, baby, pop! That's kind of ball game, really. And so if f5, then we'll go pop! That's got to hurt. Okay. So f5, mistake. Got to be a mistake. Knight d4, nice move. Nice move. Bam! Beautiful. Now here you got a variety of ways to win. Let's see how you do it. Good move. Good move. Good move. Yeah, there we go. Completely crushing. Ooh, it's gotta hurt. Gotta hurt. That ain't it, Bows. Good move. Good move. Resigns. Let's read what you wrote. My two past plans are going to either promote or force a piece, sacrifice, or trade. I played well. My opponent made a few accurate moves, and I slowly improved my position. Great, dude. Yeah. I did not overthink any of the key moments, as I've done in previous games. I spent up to 10 minutes on a couple of positions, but I did so examining 2 to 3 candidate moves and selecting the most solid options. I didn't play hope chess, stayed principled in my approach. Great, dude. Great. So this is an example. I'm going to add this to the model games. I guess I'll add it for the one he just came up from. So this will be model games for 13, 14. Yeah, dude. Really good. Really good. Now, first of all, I want to say, Sanji, thank you for rating. I didn't see it. I didn't see it. I was involved. So if I missed something in chat, I'll come back and look. I might not always be there. Okay. Yeah, absolutely, McManus. Really good annotations. Let's go take a look at El Scoreboard and see what's going on over there. Okay. CBGGH probably stands for something lewd. I don't know what it stands for. Maybe it's just the guy's initials. I'm always assuming it's a guy, and that gets me in loads of trouble. I can't even begin to tell you. Okay, so now time out here. CBGGH looks like they might have graduated more than once. So, first of all, they started the program very recently, gained 71. Just come rapid 1486. All right, let's just find, well, okay, let's first look at this one. I have a feeling there's another that CB has graduated more than once. 7 annotated games, great. Oh wait, let's go back a second. 10 points per box. 7, 6, 4 postmortems, beautiful. Some Polgars, these are the hard ones. All the tactics, some Silman. Great work. All right, now let me just see if there's another one here. So, right, because CB might have also been in the 1300. Yeah, so there it is. CB was also in the 1300. And here it shows the same start date. I'm hoping in the new Chess Dojo 2.0 that it would show the start date at which you joined the cohort. But here, yeah, 187 points, 5 points per box. And there we can see loads of work, dude. Epic work here. Pap, pap. I really like the postmortems that CB's doing. Fantastic. Ooh, baby. Oh, look at that. Look at that, dog. Hold on. Boom, 1470. finished bows. Finished bows. Finished bows. These are the maiden twos, my friends. Nice. That's work. That's work. That will turn you into an animal. That will turn you into an animal right there. Puzzle Rush and all that stuff. Great. Silman, great. Modern Ideas in Chess. Beautiful. Nice, dude. I like that it's green. Oh, CB's going to bring it, dude. Okay. Now, this is a little bit weird. It's like our scoreboard's a little funky. You can see there because we have this thing at the end, but we also have the progress bar for the classical games. In any case, that's going to be fixed within a month when we do our business. CB, that was great, dude. You are crushing it, man. So I'm looking for CB. We'll do an announcement later in the Discord. That's good work, dude. That's really good work. All right, let's move along and do Steven. And Steven here is playing friend of the dojo. No, not just a friend. One of the main people in the dojo. Seth Lichtenstein from Denver. I've hung out with Seth a little bit. So let's go do a little bit of pop. Okay. Let's get into this. Let's flip it. Okay. Steven is allowed to study opening, so I'm not allowed to say anything. Now, this is actually a long-time theory, castles, and Black has done all kinds of things. In my head, Bishop G4 is, oh, get it right, Kraai, get it right. No, CD and then Bishop G4 is the main deal. Okay, that was the old Kasparov-Karpov match. So B6, and I played this as white when I was a kid, this setup. And, you know, I didn't have any help as a kid, so it was hard for me to understand this kind of position and exactly what's going on. One of the things that appealed to me was the idea of like Queen D2 and then a quick play against the king. It's hard for me to understand. No one really told me that the Black idea here is really to play for the C4 square. So like with a knight A5 later. And so I didn't appreciate really that my bishop is in many ways just completely misplaced on C4. Anyway, it's not like either side has done anything wrong. White plays D5 now. Okay, it's an interesting decision. I feel pretty good in saying that Queen D2 is the right move, intending Bishop H6. D5 is controversial. Oh, and by the way, these are good notes. DC, Queen C7. That's like a positional trick. Actually, it's good that we had the last game because there, too, White snagged a pawn on C5. And I said, if that bishop on A3 weren't so cool, then maybe it would be reasonable compensation for Black. And here, too, or rather here, it's great compensation for Black because the pawn on C3 is terrible. We'll eventually play something like knight A5. And the white pieces don't make a lot of sense. So Queen E2 holding the tension is correct. D5, maybe not terrible, but now the knight gets to go where they want. And now B6 looks good. And the bishop on C4 looks especially bad. Okay, let's see what White did. D3. Now Black gets frisky with F5. My very clear sense here, is it very clear, boss? It's pretty clear. Black should play E6 here. Black should play E6. And if White wants to play with cojones, then they gotta play C4 and sacrifice the exchange. Black doesn't necessarily have to take it. In any case, Black plays with cojones, F5. Not sure about the cojones here. That's a lot of cojones. I got censored by Braden. I said, do you guys tell me if this is so incorrect? We're talking about big, the best games of all time in our dojo talks. And I said one of the categories for me, or one of the reasons a game might be one of the best of all time, is somebody has to play with big, hairy balls. And they were like, you can't say that, Bose. And I said, why not? We're talking about games that are, exciting, interesting. Somebody's going to be playing with big, hairy balls. And here, this is a big, hairy balls position here, especially for white, because if white wants to, grab it by the horns here, we might want to play something crazy like c4. Now, let's talk about why f5 is a little bit over the top. Now, the e6 square is funky, and this knight doesn't really know what it's doing in life, but at some point soon, now it does. Okay, let's go. Pop, pop. Don't like it. Don't like it. This is helping white open the position over there. Bishop g4. So clearly that was your intention when you took on e4. And you were playing, I guess, to win the pawn on c3. But it's making me nervous because you're opening the position now. And the knight on a5 could become a loser. Now, you write rook c1 was better than queen d2. My gut is that he's still going to be doing great. Okay? So the reason you're saying this is because you see that you're winning a pawn. Let's go look and see how it goes. So c4, pop, 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 pop. Okay, fascinating position. I want to stress, I'm not sure what's happening here. Because the knight is bad on a5. That's why I'm not sure. So this is white's moment to make a good move. From white's perspective, white really wants to activate, kind of like, the question is the bishop on c2 a winner or not? One piece of good news for black is that the natural rook f8, queen f8, rook f1, queen g7, then black can say, hey boss, my queen's looking great. My knight on a5 might need some work, but my queen's looking great. So, ideally, white would like to play e5. Let's switch this. Maybe Seth will watch this someday. So, a dangerous move to face as white, I think, would be bishop h6. Yeah, I'm getting nervous. Right? So, difficult choice. I don't know, Bose. I don't know. It's definitely getting a little hot. So the intentions of bishop h6, well, they're pretty clear. But I would like to win the f-file. I would like to play e5. And I just want to stress, I don't know exactly what's going on, but this is a difficult moment for black. So I want to stress, Stephen, that when you did this, you're playing to win a pawn, but it's you're giving yourself a lot of weaknesses. In contrast, I think your dream could be, hey, let's play for the c4 square and rehabilitating my knight, right? So, for example, I don't know what white does. Maybe they sack the exchange with c4. If they take, then we say, oh, right, I'm playing for the c4 square, standard Grunfeld procedure, right? Okay. So anyways, let's look at the game. f5, f3. Rook ad1 feels a little slow. I'm not sure how I feel about bishop e5, just because why is there a rush? Queen d6 makes a lot of sense to me. Okay. Now, here, we should definitely think about bishop h6. Let's call that, okay, let's give that a try. Let's give queen g4 a try. And then that's a sad move. Seth, Boss, you're going to need to play with big hairy balls here, man. Oh, come on, Kraai. You don't have to talk like that, buddy. It's too much. The kids don't like it. More dynamic would have been h4 to try to get some kind of h5. Here we can say, from Black's perspective, that it's a big deal that we've firmly blockaded this pawn, because now at least the bishop, it's not clear what the thing's going to do. Okay, poor move. And now let's see. This will be an interesting test. I haven't gone over the game yet. So the test for Steve will be, how does Steve activate the knight on a5? So I think, but definitely Black's doing better in this position. Still have to be very careful that we don't lose control. And one of the main ways we could lose control is if we don't fix the knight. So there's a couple plans for Black. And if anything, the first thing to say is that our concern is that on bishop h6, I'm going to lose the f file. And maybe it's not the end of the world. I lose the f file, I'm going to lose the f file. Okay, so there's the obvious go get him strategy. I might lose my a pawn if I do that, though. There's the obvious fix yield knight strategy. There's another yield knight strategy. And so for me as a coach, what I'm interested to see in the next couple moves is Stephen going to be sensitive to the needs of the knight? Okay, so here we come. a6, not sensitive. Not sensitive. Rook b1 is just a completely superficial move. What should White do? Bishop h6. Bishop h6. Now, I assume that I give Stephen a little credit that his intention is to play a6, b5 to fix the pawns and to proudly be up a pawn. But look, boss, your knight isn't working in that position. It's not doing nothing. So, yeah, I think that I just want to say I think that was an instructive moment. I hadn't seen the game, and one of the things I say in the Chessable course is that, especially when we come up to the level of like 2200, what is the key thing holding people back? And by the way, when you play in any repertoire, but especially like the aggressive repertoire, all your pieces need to be attacking. That is the key thing that I often see that's lacking, the lack of sensitivity towards the piece. So here, it's going to have to be a creative solution for the knight, right? Personally, I guess I'm in favor of c3, knight c4, with the intention of playing maybe knight d2, but just to be active on c4, just to get the thing active. And we could fret about losing our pawn on c3, but it's more important to get our knight in, because bishop h6, if Black had played ace, or excuse me, White had played bishop h6, which we get a good variation here, then at least we have, you know, Black is getting some questions. So now, bishop g7 may be the best move. The drama with bishop g7 is that now White can at least dream of moving e5. Now, White did himself a disservice by blocking the h-pawn, because it would be great if we could play h4, h5 to get the bishop some kind of scope onto the king. All right, let's see how this variation goes. So, queen e3. Okay, that's an interesting move. e6. Wow, bows. Wow, bows. Okay, e5. But now you can take on f1, right? This is weird to me. It's a weird variation. Okay, so this to me is an example of a variation. Maybe it was even done in the postmortem. People aren't putting an eval on it. They're not getting really exact. So this is an example of where Stephen needs to drill down a little bit and think about the position, because it's fascinating. This is, and by the way, this is a very typical Grunfeld position. So becoming good at the Grunfeld is precisely like finding ways to play positions like this and being sensitive. Hey, my knight bows. I'm down a knight. So to put it one way is, if he could play e5, white is going to be up a piece on the in the position, because the bishop will be working. At least that could be their hope. Now, on a practical level, what I would be interested in, my first question would be, can I trade all the rooks? Let's just imagine this for a second. I'm going to imagine this. If I just take, I say thank you very much. And it's a little bit hairy. I'm not allowed to talk about hairy balls anymore, but I think black is definitely on top. The center is collapsing. Why do I want to trade rooks? Because I don't want to get mated. That's my main thing. The computer might say a bunch of different things. I'm just showing you what the prudent thing in my head would be here for black. And from white's perspective, maybe even they could consider not trading rooks. But if they don't trade rooks, then we say, hey, well, you know, in that case, at least I gained a tempo with rook f8. So, for example, I don't know, rook e1 or rook d1 definitely are thoughts here. Okay, so let's go back. Rook b1. We're going to criticize that as pointless. b5. Bishop d2. Notice, white is now helping the knight reconsider its life trajectory, right? Just helping. Now c3 is a fancy move, but knight b7, we're also doing fine. We're doing great. There's no, a4 is not going to work. Okay. So c3 probably is a good move because bishop, well, it's a great move. Bishop c3 and queen c5. Now, something I want to stress is that the reason, in my experience, why people don't become sensitive to their bad pieces is because their opponents also aren't aware of their opponent's bad pieces, like Seth here. And so Seth is like not thinking about, hey, maybe I can drum up some chances on the king side because my opponent's knight is out. And not only that, now I'm going to fool around. And by fooling around, he fooled around and then he found out. He fooled around, now the knight's fixed. So what am I saying? That my experience is that people get their bad pieces fixed at this level. And so they never learn to fix their bad pieces. All right, now black is clearly winning. That's a poor move. Now that's just all the way gone. Check to the miserable king. Thank you very much. Okay. Is there a threat here? I don't see it. Look at that. Now our knight's a hero. Now this knight's a hero. That's probably correct. Okay, good. So, Stephen, beautiful job. Let's check out, by the way, let me just quickly say, well, we're going to look at the scoreboard, but the thing that I can say for sure is focus more on variations and giving evaluations and some words, right? Some more words. Yeah, good. And the sensitivity to the knight. And one of the cool things I'll just say about openings, actually, let me just share a position. Let's say we're over, I don't know, somewhere over here, this position. That when you play openings, you become good, after a while, you become good at playing the late middle game positions. And here, as a Grunfeld player, you go over your games and you start seeing like, oh, boss, it's totally a critical question. Is my knight a zero or a hero, right? And so c3, which actually I think I recommended right here, let's get the knight in now. now. And then once he gets in, oh man, he's looking at e5, d2, e3. Oh, the thing's a beast. But if it's out, and we're not feeling it with a6, we're not feeling the knight's pain with a move like a6. So what am I saying? You go over your games, and you get good at understanding those dynamics. And Seth could understand, hey, Baus, what do? We got to mate him. Okay. Harry Boss. Steven, thank you for being here. Let's go look at the scoreboard. So, pop. Pop. All right. Yes. There Steven is. Okay, let's take a look. So, Steven has gone up 1 and began at 1601 Chess.com, is up to 1652, 51 points. So I just love it. They clipped the threshold. Began not a full, let's say 9 months ago. 3 points per box. Okay, so that's showing work. That's what 3 points per box shows me. And we got 19 games played. And definitely Steven has some games in the database. So Steven should click at least one here. Postmortems, beautiful. Let me just say about the postmortems. Of all the things here, well, there's a couple things here which might not help you that much. So for example, a postmortem is oftentimes, maybe it's just 5 minutes. But the reason we put it in here was to really stress that it's a huge benefit to your analysis and to get into the ritual of the postmortem. For example, at an over-the-board tournament, a lot of times you don't have time. With GMs, a lot of times it'll just be two dudes talking out in the hallway without the board. I should have done this, should have done that. And you get a sense of like how the other person saw the game. What did they think the critical moments were? How did they think about chess in general? And so it's often like not the most amazing thing. Like you go over a whole game. I mean, that's going to take a week. You know, that's going to take a while to go over a game. But a postmortem, it's just a beautiful thing. And then especially within the dojo, you know, whether we're doing opening sparring, endgame sparring, or playing a dojo in the Dojo Classical League, to do the postmortem, beautiful. And you get into a discussion, have to maybe defend your ideas, right? Or articulate your ideas well. Okay, so Steve's doing some of that. Some of the maiden twos have been done. Definitely crushing it with the puzzle rush. Sparring position, good. End games, oh yeah, look at this, Baus. This is some work. This is some work, my friends. Yes, sir. All right, I'm liking this. These are the people I'm a fan of. People are really putting in the work. Great. Yep. Oh yeah, look at that, dude. Boom. Actually, you can see, I take it back. What Steve has been doing, instead of putting in the games here, the scoreboard has some confusion, as I said before, because this thing is in the back, which was originally a relic of the first days of the dojo, which is fine. We wanted people to check off the boxes. Clearly a little bit more elegant with the progress bar. We did not have the progress bar at the beginning. In any case, there you see that Steven's crushing it. And so, let me just say, Steven, I think it's clear that now you're going to go up to this new cohort. It's going to be a little bit more competitive. I think you should say to yourself, right, it's going to be tough. It will be a tough grind. It might even take a year. But if you do all of the requirements, right, the claim is, I think you're actually a good test case because you've clearly reached a point where it's hard to progress, right? So we get to this level, and it's obviously like the maiden twos, boss, for sure. These classical games, fantastic, right? Winning chess tactics, more Silman, right? And all of this stuff that we got in here, boom, fantastic. Simple chess you've already done, so that's good. This will look mildly different when we do Dojo 2.0. So there will be some mild changes. For us, it was big changes, but for what people experience in the program, it probably won't feel too epic. For us, we really kind of shifted things around. We got a little scientific about the thing. All right, let's go back. Dojo game review. Pop! And let's go look now at Mura. Flip it to see it from Mura's perspective. All right. This is a kind of a quick game here, which I'm not sure actually fits the requirements. I'm just developing my pieces here. I always play bishop c5 since I'm not prepared for fried liver stuff. Okay. Okay. Knight c3, there's nothing wrong with bishop c5. Definitely nothing wrong with knight c3. The more common moves are b4, c3, and castle 2. But there's can't be wrong, right? Can't be wrong. Let's read this. I think this was already a good move since d6, then let's call it the natural d6, locks my bishop out and allows bishop g5 to be a nasty pin. Okay. These positions are fascinating, by the way. And one of the ways in which they're fascinating is it's actually kind of what let's say high-level play has taught us is that it's actually a real question mark about castling and when we should do it. So here I don't think it can be wrong, but it is true that after bishop g5, black has some real questions about how we're going to play this position. All right, let's look. h6, bishop h4, bishop e7. Now, about this bishop e7, it is a safe move, and I like that you feel good about it, okay? You feel good about putting the bishop there and feeling safe about the knight. Now, of course, you are not developing a piece when you play bishop e7, right? Now, let's say about g5 that this would have been the big hairy bows. That's been my recommendation. This is what to say instead of big hairy balls so that Braden doesn't cut me off, doesn't cut off my balls. So g5 would have been the big hairy balls. Okay, so the issue with them taking now, though, is precisely what you said. Now bishop e7 and you're winning. It's game over. Yeah. If your pawn were on d6, no, couldn't do it. So g5 definitely balls. And here I want to stress, I'm not 100% about this position. We need to play d6. And the claim, okay, the claim that black would make in playing this is that g3, the bishop on g3, is not a great piece. That's the claim. Is it true? I don't know. That's the debate, though, that we're having. And the further claim is that my pawn's on h6, g5, maybe not so bad. Maybe not so bad. And definitely if white castles, then we feel good about life. Then we feel great, right? Because we got all kinds of opportunities to start messing with the white pieces. Bishop g4 is the first. And yeah, this is a nice position for black. So the interesting question, and I'm sure there's a big theoretical discussion in this position. By the way, you don't need to know the big old hairy discussion. You just need to have a sense of like, oh, maybe the bishop, that the idea would be, maybe the bishop is poor on g3. I think that's true. And then you say, you cannot play knight takes g5 because bishop e7 at the end, right? This is a good one from McManus. Quote, I like that you feel good about it, end quote, is something my wife says just before she explains why I'm wrong. But really, I want to say in chess, it's very important to feel like you understand the position, okay? So you don't have to argue with your wife when you're playing chess, thankfully. Oh my gosh. And here, the only crime here is that you've lost some time. But I can tell that you like it because you feel secure. And yes, you should want to feel secure. So h3, poor move. Right? Now, is it easy for white to figure out what to do? No, it's not easy. So, right, let's just say I could deliberate for a long time about what I think white should play here. There could be big discussions. Queen d2 might be the most natural move, but the problem with queen d2 is that we get whacked. Is it true? I think it's true. I think we get whacked there. So that's probably out. I don't know, it's complicated. I was going to say it might be cool to try to bring the knight to f5, but there again we get whacked, and our h4 knight is in trouble. So yeah, this is kind of hard, dude. Kind of hard, bows. Hard for white to figure out what's going on. The question really still is about the bishop on h4. Let's just say the obvious, if the castles is a totally reasonable move for white. That should be white's default move. Okay, so h3, I don't like it. d6, good move. Castles. Now, Mura is talking about a3 or queen d2. My sense is that queen d2 would still face knight e4. By the way, I want to stress something here. One of the great things about these annotations is people have been very good, for the most part, of not turning on the computer. So we're just getting their thoughts, right? Once you turn on the computer, you're not thinking anymore. You're just observing what the computer's saying. So for example, I think on queen d2, that the computer would tell you that knight e4 is a nice position. Obviously, if they recapture the knight, we take on h4. Bishop e7, we snip, snap, snook, and we're going to take on d8, right? Doing great. So, there's that. And then a3, obviously not the most scary thing, but what I like, what Mura is feeling, is that castles, let's read what they say. I think this lets me equalize easily by getting my bishop pair with knight a5. Okay. Okay, let's look. The funny business about knight a5, of course, is maybe it's a fine move, but it is moving a developed piece twice. And the bishop on c4 is technically white's good bishop. Right? Excuse me. It's been a long day. The bishop on c4 is white's bad bishop. The bishop on h4 is the good bishop because the white pawns are on light squares. Now, one of the interesting things about bishop g5 is that it then creates this whole problem where maybe this good bishop is going to get shut down with g5. One of the games from the dojo sparring that we added is the Winter Capablanca game where Capablanca has the bishop shut down on g3. And the question is not just like, oh, the bishop might be bad, but hey, boss, that's your good piece, and maybe it's not working on this side of the board. So when you look at this kind of position, you watch the greats play it. Bishop g5 is only played if they have some special idea. Okay, hard to know what dude should do. Plays knight d2, knight h7. Okay, so this is a typical, let's call it tactics moment. My question would be pop, 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 pop. Oh yeah, this is not going to work because check it out. This knight is cutting me out. So let's try it without the knight cutting me out. No, I don't want to. No, no, no. So it's not going to work. Okay, so knight h7, pop, pop. I think I'm better now. My dark square bishop is replaced by the dark pawn chain. Well said. And I'm about to get rid of white's other bishop. Okay. Now you criticize knight d5. Seems like that's got to be a reasonable move. And f4 is at least interesting. Well, I like it. I like the idea anyway. So let me go back just a second here. I do think this position you might be a little bit better, but white does have some ideas to play f4 and by rerouting the knight onto e3 to play on the light squares. So I think the proper way to play this position is to play c6. Excuse me. I'm not even going to do it. Actually, I'll start here. The proper way is to go pop, pop, and then shut him out, bows. Shut him out. And we have ourselves, I think it's still, I mean, the claim here for you is to say that your bishop is amazing. But, you know, if anything, it's just going to be a small advantage. Okay, knight h7, it's controversial because you're moving the knight away. Pop, 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 pop. Pop, 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 pop. I like the intention. I'm not sure about this take. Let's read what you write. I'm threatening the rook and h3, have a safer king, and will start an attack soon, while white is playing without a rook and two clumsy knights on the second and third rank. Okay. So, yeah, interesting questions about this. I want to stress that what makes me nervous about this is that your pieces, you have an interesting tactic coming up, I get it, but your pieces are all loose, okay? And you are encouraging white to bring out all of his guns. So, white falls for the trick and plays queen f3. You write rook f3 and say, I thought my opponent would defend like this, an ugly move, but it holds everything together. Okay, so one of the things Tall's famous for saying is, sometimes I fall for my opponent's tricks, or fall for the trap. Okay, so queen f3. I'm going to just go ahead and say intuitively, I believe in white's position, even though you love it that you've got bishop h3 here. Okay. Now, the first piece of good news for you is that if knight f5, just trying to win your bishop, this I can't do because my knight is hanging on d2. So now your opponent definitely plays a weird move, king f2, and to your credit, you look at g4, which would be a very interesting attempt. Let's talk about what has to be the natural move. Rook af1. Okay, so the issue with rook af1, I'm assuming, has to be... Now we're threatening queen h3, and we're threatening f7, so I'm assuming we got to go back. Now, knight f5, it's still problematic because my knight on d2 hangs at the end, right? All right, so natural question. What about d4? I'm just wanting to stress that I'm nervous for you because white has a pretty interesting build-up. So for example, d5 is the threat, working us away from f7. Knight f6. And now maybe c4. The intention is to say, well, if you take, my worst piece gets involved. And if you don't take, then d5 is still a hassle in the castle. Yeah. So all I'm trying to say is, this I wouldn't classify as, I wouldn't know for sure if I was clearly better, because the natural move rook a f1 scares me. At least I think white should have compensation. So, but let's look at your move too. I like this idea. Furthermore, I like that you considered it, because this is a little scary. Now, what is the problem for poor white, though? We're not actually threatening to take the bishop for the same reason we couldn't take it before, because L rook is hanging on f4. Still, this is kind of scary. h5, rook f5, hg exclam, and we got some grief. And this one, pop, pop, pop. I'm not sure I understand all of that. It looks, it's true. It's true. The guy still has some mild compensation because things like knight d4 to f5 are coming. But yes, you're better. Good. Now, this, by the way, this kind of variation is what we want to see more of, because this is where you truly learn tactics, and because you have to also evaluate at the end. Okay, so h5 makes sense. I'm just thinking about a couple things here. The problem is truly my knight on d2 is a jerk. If my knight on d2 weren't such a jerk, this thing would be a little more comprehensible. Knight on d2 is a real jerk. Okay, good. So I think that's true. And definitely this wasn't it. All right? This wasn't it. Just go back. Now the king's misplaced. And now our main job is the knight on h7 coming back into the game, which we can do either g5, knight g5, or knight f6. I feel also it's interesting that white isn't sensitive to his d2 knight. Okay, no one believes in that. Let's see what you did. Ooh, I don't like this move. I don't like that move because your queen needs to be in front of the king. And you're going to allow things like knight f5. Let me just say, my first intuition there is knight f6. And you know, honestly, even though black doesn't, or white doesn't deserve to have anything here, it's still a little complicated. The reason that we're going to say that you got to be winning this thing, though, is the knight on d2. The knight on d2 is so bad. Absolutely terrible. What would I like you to do? I'd like you to play knight f6. Then you prevent rook h5. God, I want you to activate this dude. Right? Okay. So queen e7. Now white can play knight f5. They should. Do they? No. Okay. Now they should play knight f3. No. Not fixing their bad piece. We see it again and again. Thank you very much. Okay, good. Okay, they got to try it. Boom! Dang! Dang, someone's been doing Someone's been doing their puzzle rush mouse. That's some big hairy balls right there. Damn. That's some big cojones right there, dude. That's the real deal. Mm-hmm. Wow. This is great, dude. Now, I assume it's winning. There's a couple things to look at, but yeah, dude, beautiful shot. Look at that. Boom. And I also just want to say, I'm not a huge fan of believing in puzzle rush. I don't mind people doing it. But this is an example of a kind of position that back in the day, if you're playing somebody in this cohort, what are we looking at? 14, 1500, they would not be thinking about queen e4. They just wouldn't, right? So queen e4, and what's hilarious too, it's like the knight on d2, a pathetic thing, finally got out of its way, but it had one job, apparently. That was defending e4. That job is now over. You're not defending it anymore. We got a first-time chat. But I have a quick question about today's ChessCom puzzle. Okay, I'll tell you what. Let me finish this and we'll go do your ChessCom puzzle. So queen e4, exclam. Thank you very much. That's a rook. That isn't going to help you, son. Beautiful. Check. Oh, I wanted rook e2. Okay. Check to the miserable king. Mate. Yeah. You should feel good about that game. That was fantastic, dude. All right, let's go check the scoreboard and see how Mura is progressing here. So Mura, I don't know why. Why do you got to be a jerk by saying it funny all the time? Huh, buddy? So, wait a second. I'm hoping I'm getting it right. I believe Mura is in this, but it looks like already Mura's... Wait a second. Let's just see what's going on. I might have got the cohort wrong. So Mura actually has started way down there. Oh my gosh, look, you guys. Started at 1100, has been crushing it. So wait a second. Let's go back here. Find. Wait. Oh. So right, 14, 15. I was correct. Es das Deutschland. Jawohl. So they wanted me to do in Chessable, they wanted to do my course in German. I was like, boss, first of all, that's a lot of work. It was a lot of work to do it in English. And I was like, boss, you don't want, dude, it's been, last millennium since I was living in Germany, Baus. Okay. I'm trying to find something here, though. Let's just rinse and repeat. We'll go through all this stuff. So I think Mura started in 1100 is what I'm trying to say. All right. So let's just look at all the stuff that Mura has done. And they started October 31. I'm a little confused. There's some things that are confusing to me about that. It's done some analysis. Definitely done some work. And then we go 14, 15. And what I don't understand is this is showing, let me go back. So if I go forward, no. Yeah, it's confusing to me because Mura has graduated, but it's showing all this work. So there's something a little funky, but let's go through it. October of last year, 202 points games, 17 points per box. Now the dude's killing it. He's going to clearly be into the next cohort soon. Done all of this work. Needs to do the maiden twos. Needs to do the maiden threes. If I had time today, I was going to do some survival. I need to get, this is Kostya's idea. He wants people to have benchmarks in their survival so they can cross it off. Needs to read some books. But yeah, Mura is crushing it, dude. We're going to see more from Mura because check it out. 17 points per box. that means that they will probably graduate the next level very quickly. Okay.